Welcome to the corner. I'm your host, Brooke Day, and a little bit of housekeeping. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure if you haven't hit like on the video, you do so. It always helps out. We're trying to grow this platform through multiple social media streams, and I'm having a really good time doing it. Today, for our second episode, I've got a good friend of mine. We balled together. So when you ball with bros, you have a special bond. We also both live now in Asia. The difference between him and I'm an Upper Canadian, and he's a Newfie, right? Right?
Yeah,
You're
sure.
a Newfie,
Yeah,
yeah?
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm an honorary Newfie because in my first year at McDonald residence at Cape Breton University, I was screeched in. It's official. I got the certificate. I did the whole deal. And the boys at the residence, we were tight. So, brother, good to see you. Thanks for joining
buddy.
me.
What's going on, Dizzle?
And let's
I
have a good time.
I love how you tried to make it sound all professional. Cape Breton University. Back when we went, it was UCCB, the University of Crayons and Coloring Books.
You know, when I can remember the first time I got a letter from Greg, Greg, Coach Jockums, and I was like, what the hell's UCCB?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was like, where's this place? And I was reading it, and we didn't have Google then, right? So you have to like get out encyclopedias. You got to look at Cape Breton Island, and visit it in the summertime, and I liked it. And I really loved Coach. Coach was my guy. Greg Jockums was my guy.
Yeah, man. Shout out to the Orange Army.
Hell yeah! Are you talking to many people from the school?
I still keep in contact with pretty much almost everybody. I mean, not consistently, but I mean, I still talk to Brady. I talk to Dave every now and again. I've seen Stevie recently, the past few years, Pesci. Scatter chat online, B Silver, like most people. But I mean, we were talking about that actually. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a reunion?
Yeah. For me, without getting into my thing, but like leaving there like I did after my third year, I say to my wife every time, one of these summers we got to go out east because I got to bury something out there. I got to put something to rest, like not going back after my third year. What a big disappointment. And when I look back, but hey, I don't regret anything, but I would love to see everyone again. Yeah. I've hung out with Brady since, us being Ontario guys. Haven't seen Dave, haven't seen Stevie. Stevie just added me on Facebook about a year ago, so I've got to see a little bit of Stevie. And Pesci's my guy. Like, Pesci,
man, they're all. I mean, Pesci is in Dartmouth, Stevie's in Halifax, Dave's in Yarmouth, so the boys are still in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like Pesci's my guy. Like, Pesci contributes to the corner. Like, he's in there. He's in there saying like, what is
I'm moving up closer to the modem so it doesn't freeze up.
Like that. Okay, so that's a really nice transition. So we've got some stories, you and I. We can talk about hoops in a minute. But what I want to do is I want to introduce your career a little bit. Tell everyone, what you're about, what your main thing is. I'll let you say that in your own words, and segue into why you are in Asia.
If you were asking questions, you just want me to go.
Yeah, that's it. That's the question. I did provide you like 10 questions.
All right. Well, man, I'm a stand-up comedian for 15 years now. I graduated back in UCCB 20 years ago, but 15 years, more than 3,000 shows in 28 countries. And I came to Asia, man, in 2003. Actually, when we were at Cape Breton, there was a ESL recruiter came there. And they were talking about teaching English in Japan. And I just had that in the back of my head. And then graduated University, Cape Breton, went to actually University of Maine for a minute, looking to do my Bachelor's of Education. And just was like in Presque Isle. I mean, Presque Isle made Sydney look like New York City. And I just wasn't happy there. And there was, would have been a bunch of debt just to get my degree. So I bounced, went to Alberta, did the old work thing, was a roughneck on an oil rig, bunch of odd jobs. I was a little lost. But then I had that in the back of my head, right? I was like, man, what about that ESL thing? And I looked into it and then found out instead of Japan, Korea was kind of a cheaper option because Japan's really expensive, And so I'm like, let me try Korea. And I had no idea, dude. I just broke up with my girlfriend, and I was like, I just wanted to get out of Dodge. And I just applied for a job and got a job as a kindergarten teacher in Sukcho, South Korea, which is like up north, and jumped on a plane 2003. Ended up living in Korea for 6 years. Went back to Canada briefly, and now I've been living in Bangkok for 5 years. So I've been in Asia for about 12, 13 years.
So what? Okay, so your comedy special that my wife and I are going to watch tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, big in Asia. We're going to get to that. That was filmed in Korea, yeah? You talked a lot about...
That was actually filmed in Mongolia. It was kind of crazy. I found out about Mongolia had a comedy club. This guy actually built the comedy club in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, based off the Comedy Store in LA. And it just looked amazing. I knew this Irish comedy legend, Martin Moore. He'd been there. He told me about it. He's a friend of mine. So I went there like February 2019, I think it was. And had a great time. The club was beautiful, like 200 seat. The most, like I said, I played like, 28 countries now, 21 in Asia alone. And it was the best venue I've ever seen. The hospitality was off the charts. I met a film crew while I was there, AFE Films, and we talked about it. And then 6 months later, I went back and did my special.
Oh, that's really cool. So I'm going to get into the nuances of comedy in a minute. But as far as Asia is concerned, where's your favorite place to rock it?
Man, Thailand's hard to beat. I mean, I love traveling to Mongolia because it was so different. Cambodia fascinates me. But in terms of living, I mean, Thailand, between the food, the people, the weather, just the pure beauty of the place. I love Thailand, man.
It's hot, bro. It's hot.
It's hot. You get used to it. I mean, when I first came here, I didn't think I could do it because I was just sweating all the time. I was just East Coast Canadian, just like, can I do this, man? Like everywhere I went, I was just sweaty. But I've climatized a bit, and you learn to live like a Thai, get your shit done in the morning or the night, middle of the day, stay inside or hide in the shade.
Yeah. Good point. Like I've been to Thailand twice. Never been to Mongolia, right? But it's really interesting being over here. Like I remember but traveling around playing hoops at Cape Breton, getting to see the Maritimes like it was like somewhere halfway around the world, because it was so, the Maritime's so different than Ontario. You know what I mean? Specifically where I'm from. And going like, oh yeah, I got a chance to see PEI, I got a chance to see New Brunswick, I got a chance to see Newfoundland. It was really great. I feel the same way being able to say like I've been to Japan, China, Thailand, Philippines. I feel the same way over here with those experiences. Just it's really great to be able to check them out. Myself personally, awesome. Yeah, it's a tough call. I still think Taiwan's the best place I've been to in Asia. And
it's funny. I haven't been to Taiwan. I was looking to come down there this year actually, and then COVID happened because they just opened up a comedy thing down there in Taipei. My buddy's running it, and they're doing pretty good. I know they're doing Mandarin shows, and that's doing really well. But they're starting to bring in English comedy, and I've heard great things about Taipei. I heard the street food is off the charts. And this is really beautiful, really diverse. I can't wait to get there. I'll get there next year for sure.
Taipei is a top city for sure. I think, I liked Singapore because it's very Canadian. Like it's sidewalks and street corners and everyone obeys the rules.
Clean and boring.
Yeah, it's clean and boring. Yeah, it's sterile. No disrespect to the Singaporean folks out there. I've got a lot of friends in Singapore, but it's all the way up to the top, right?
Yeah, they take themselves a little too seriously. But
it's
beautiful. I love Singapore too. I probably played there more than almost anywhere in Asia. I go to Singapore a lot.
Yep, I can imagine that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about comedy and you being a comic. So as a comic, what are the fundamentals needed to be good at the performance art? Because it's a performance art, right? You classify it as that.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's definitely an art. That's actually one of the issues we have in Canada right now. It's not defined as art. And because of that reason, people are not able to get funding or grants for comedy, which is insane, because we literally produce some of the best comedy in the world. And
absolutely,
our comics back home are just struggling, trying to get by. But meanwhile, if I went in the woods and climbed a tree and played a fiddle, I'd be able to get 20 grand. So, that ain't great. But I don't know, man, to be a comedian, you need low self-esteem and a need for attention. No, man, like perseverance for sure. You definitely need perseverance, and I think a big one is failure, is dealing with failure, man. Just like with anything, is like, because you're gonna fail a lot, and how you deal with that is gonna say a lot about how you're gonna be okay in comedy or not. I mean, because think about it, every night we're going out to open mics, working on new bits, new ideas. A lot of times it doesn't go well, and if you're not up for that challenge, you don't have a chance. And
Yep.
there's kind of a thing too, that whole Malcolm Gladwell thing, the 10,000 hours. I mean, in comedy, we kind of say 10 years, and there's a bit of truth to that. Like, it takes about 8 or 10 years, man, till you finally hit a groove. Doesn't matter who you are. There's very few times that Eddie Murphy comes along, like for me, it was about year 9, like, 8, 9, right in there, like where I was like, okay, I'm not embarrassed to tell people I'm a comedian now. But it took that. And I mean, I hustle more than most. I mean, I was averaging probably 300 shows a year until that time, and still it was just like not yet. But yeah, and then it's just dedication, and you got to dedicate yourself, obviously, right, to 10 years. You can't get into comedy and then a year in just expect things to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen at all. And
I think remembering you and the hoops that we played together, and like I said, when you play hoops with someone, you it's almost like dog years, like that 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years you play hoops with someone, either high school or in college. You spend so much time with those people that it's like, you know what I mean? Like, so much is getting rammed in together. I remember you always had that sense of timing. When sometimes dudes are in a room and they're talking and they're chatting, and then the opportunity for comedy presents itself. I think most of the time landing on that spot in time really makes things funny. And I always found that when you told me you were in comedy, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. Like, and you told me early, because I think you were hitting me up, I think in like 06, 07, 08, around there, like, like kind of like the second half of the 2000s, saying, hey, clubs, I'm doing this comedy thing right now. What's going on? So like, it didn't surprise me, because to me, I always thought you had good timing. You just like right there. I had a good friend in high school. He was snappy. You know what I mean?
Right.
You never wanted to get into a little tit for tat with him because he was so snappy. But you had that timing I think
that's because, honestly, man, well, you know where I'm from. I mean, people might not know. Newfoundland's a really unique place, and a lot of unique characters. And honestly, man, like it's an island, on the northeastern point of Canada. And I mean, every third person is funny. So, I mean, I think it's a natural thing we have. We learn that timing, I guess, just because you got to be quick or you're going to get eaten alive.
I mean, going out to the East Coast, and I don't want to say this because it'll sound like I'm, in my favorite people in Cape Breton were Newfies. They just were. I loved the guys. Like, the best fans of our team, they were all Newfies from Res, right? They were so into it, and they were great dudes. They were always like, I remember first year, they're always sharing, very sharing and funny. And then you get like the folks that like you can't understand a word they're saying.
Small town folks.
And they get a few pops into them, and you're like, yeah, I don't understand anything you're saying. But
that can still happen to me, especially if I'm hanging out with another Newfoundlander and we have a couple of drinks. It can get complicated for others.
I miss that. I really do. Like, that was such a great, like, wow.
Yeah, man, great people. Newfoundlanders and Cape Bretoners are really, I mean, they're world famous really for their hospitality, and and very similar. I mean, the whole joke is Cape Bretoners are Newfoundlanders that ran out of money on their way to Toronto, right? That's kind of the joke. Right? And they are very similar.
I've heard that one, but it's true.
Yeah, because Cape Bretoners, they're up in those hills, man, isolated. They're not your regular Nova Scotians.
What was the oh shit, that's funny. Was it the ferry? Where's the ferry?
Well, there's two. There's one, you can go, it's actually, no, it's North Sydney, but there's 2 places you can go in Newfoundland. So you can go to Port aux Basques, which is on kind of the north, like the west coast of Newfoundland. That's only like a 6-hour ferry. But then you can go all the way to Argentia, which is on the east coast of Newfoundland, and that ferry is about 14, 15 hours.
Yeah, so Port aux Basques is the one.
The difference being is like the main city of Newfoundland is St. John. So if you go to Argentia, if you take that 15-hour ferry, then you only have like a 90-minute drive to St. John's. you take that 6-hour ferry, you still have another 10, 11 hours to get to St. John. So make your mind up accordingly.
So talking about, newfies leaving Newfoundland, trying to make it to Toronto, and running out of their money. That's people looking for a fresh start in life. So how did you get your start in comedy? What started that?
Man, on a bet. I mean, you remember Janice, my ex. She played ball at UCB.
Full disclosure, the baddest woman baller I've ever seen in my life.
She was one of the baddest ever to do it, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We were in Korea together for a minute. We were married, and she was smoking at the time, and like I always wanted to do comedy, but I grew up in Newfoundland. Like my comedy idols are like Codco, which is a big sketch company out of Canada, out of Newfoundland actually, but from the late 80s. But there was no stand-up. Nobody did stand-up. I just thought it's what Americans did. I used to watch Letterman when I was a kid. I don't know how I found Letterman, but I did. And I was just fascinated watching all these comedians like Gary Shandling and Roseanne Barr and Jake Johansson and whoever. It didn't matter who it was. I was just fascinated that, like, wow, you could just stand there and say what you want. It's amazing. And so I just had it in the back of my head to do. I'd actually been in comedy clubs. I was signed up and I bailed. I was too scared. And then we were in Korea and I started thinking about it again. And Janice and I made a bet if she quit smoking that I'd have to go on stage and shut up talking about it. So I was like, all right. Because in my head, I was so scared. I was like, you know what? I don't have to worry about this because she's not going to be able to quit. This is not going to be a problem. And she did. And I was like, oh, shit. And then November 11th, 2005, went to a little rowdy expatriate bar, a bunch of teachers and Marines, and went up there and screamed my dreams into the night, man.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And then I was 31 at the time, so that was pretty late, And then I knew right away, man, I'm a go-getter. I mean, I've never really dealt well with reality. I wanted to be a Jedi, shortstop for the Tigers, point guard for the Pistons, and a comedian. That's basically been my things. And I was like, I got to go. And Toronto, was one of the meccas of the world, like London, New York, Toronto are probably the comedy meccas of the world where you can get the most work and stuff. So we moved to Toronto like a month later, a little less than 2 months later. And I started grinding it out. And then that's how I got my start. And then just started getting momentum, like all of a sudden I, got signed with Yuck Yucks, the biggest comedy chain in the world. Became a headliner with those guys. I was a finalist for SiriusXM's Top Comic, over 700 comics. I was top 8. Then I ended up winning the Canadian Comedy Award for Best Comic, and I just started getting momentum and just never stopped.
Okay, so let's hit the rewind button on that. You opened my mind to some things that I've never heard before. First one, the reason why I liked you in college was because you were a Piston guy, right?
Right.
You had spent time in Detroit, correct?
Yeah.
So you and I had a lot of common ground. I was like, oh, okay, Brian knows some stuff about Detroit. Great. And of course, Isaiah Thomas was your boy, and the Pistons were your team, and we were good like that. So, but then you talked about Toronto. So having spent time in Detroit and then spending some time in Toronto, especially with the comedy side, because Toronto's very international. So you would think it would matter what district you're in, what area of the city you're in, room to room. I would imagine what plays changes. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the end of the day, though, like people are people. Laughing is involuntary, and you just learn to figure it out. I mean, you definitely learn there's certain things like certain cultures might like stereotype jokes more, or whatever. You get to read the rooms the more you do it. But at that time, I was new. I was only doing comedy like less than a year. I was terrible. So I would just go to open mics and just eat piles and piles of shit and just be ignored. Like no one talked to you because that's how ruthless it was back then. It's like 2007. And until you got funny. And I remember one time I had a good set and this guy, Gavin Stevens, really funny comic. And he's like, good set, man. Let me buy you a beer. And then that was the moment he kind of took me in the back of the room. We got to hang out with real comics. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, man, this is all right. But Toronto, I mean, being in Detroit definitely helped me not be so scared of the big city, because even though Korea is obviously a huge city soul, but it's just so organized and so polite and everything else. It's not the same. Like to me, Toronto feels like 10 times the size of Seoul.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Our big cities, they feel bigger than the Asian.
Yeah, there's just more commotion. There's just more hustle, kind of in a weird way. Everything in a lot of Asian cities are just they just got their shit tighter. You don't even notice it sometimes.
I also think that I'm just more scared in American and Canadian big cities. Like
Definitely, man.
that's,
Definitely.
I feel I'm looking over my shoulder a lot more.
Yeah, that
Uh,
sucks, but that's true.
the only place where I felt was really big over here that can't be touched anywhere else was Shanghai. Shanghai's it's another level. It's another
Man.
4 levels actually
Yeah,
for
yeah.
size and big
India.
city.
Have you ever been to India?
I haven't.
I mean, I tell people India's not even a country, man. That place is a planet. That don't even make sense. So
Okay.
it's like, you got to get emotionally prepared if you're going to India. I love it. I think it's amazing, but
Yeah.
man, it's not for the meek.
Yeah, my closest bros are Indians, and like I want to go. They always suggested me, oh, you should go. You know, you're on that side of the world. You should make a trip with your family. I'm like, I play golf, man. When I
Yeah.
go on vacation, like, can I play golf there? Like, not really. I'm not trying to sightsee and eat food.
Yeah,
and
man, you
stuff.
can play golf. I'm sure you could. I think down in Bangalore and Goa and stuff, I think they have some nice courses. There's always
Yeah,
golf.
but you think about the options. I got Thailand, I got Australia coming up. You know.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. Yeah, for the family, it might be a little intense to go to New Delhi for your vacation.
Yeah. So coming from a sports background, because you're an athlete first when I met you. You were before. What are some of the similarities then of being a comic and being an athlete? What did you take from playing hoop to being on that stage?
Well, I think kind of what I was saying earlier about the perseverance and stuff like that and dedication and definitely competition, man, for sure. Like being a competitive person, like I'm a very competitive person, but it's not like you're competing with other comics. That's a mistake some comics make. You're competing with yourself, right? In your own art, like getting your own craft. But I'm such a competitive person. Like that's one of the things I enjoy about it the most. So definitely being competitive. And yeah, perseverance is a big thing. I mean, it's like in basketball. To use a basketball analogy, it's like how it is. Like the Pistons had to take a couple of years to beat the Bulls. The Celtics had to take, Lakers had to take a couple of years to beat the Celtics. Like you got to do the certain things to get over the hump, and it might not happen right away. You got to, and again, dealing with failure. I mean, in basketball, right? You lose games, you have a shitty game yourself, but at least you're trying. That's the way I look at it with failure. At least you're trying. You just got to learn to try better and try harder. But competition and being competitive is definitely most of the former athletes I know in comedy do pretty well because they're so competitive. Because it's not just being funny, right? There's a hustle to the game, right? Like you're basically your own brand, so you got to hustle, and so you got to be competitive, man.
Coming from sports, specifically basketball in this sense, I feel like the rhythm of basketball has served me well in life. I felt like when I was playing my best hoop was when I felt like my life and everything inside of me was in rhythm. My walk, my gum chew, my cadence in my voice. You know what I mean? I just felt I was just snappy, and I feel like learning to that into my mental state, as an athlete, helps me in everything else because it helps me go. Whether it's meditation, whether it's introspection, allows me to sit back and go, find your rhythm, get back on your rhythm. Yeah. That's the one thing that I pull from. I mean, there's a lot you can pull from sports, but I'm saying the physical side of sports, that and being tough. Like, and I'll say this to everyone, like, when I meet them, they'll talk about, oh, I'm hurt. I'm like, did you play sports growing up? Specifically, did you play football or basketball? Some like hockey? No. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk about your pain tolerance, but did you play basketball in Cape Breton? Like, I mean, playing hoops with some of the guys that we played with, they were so tough from Cape Breton. Those guys, those players, man, they made me tougher. So yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's part of it, man. You got to be tough. I mean, no matter who you are, life's going to give you a kick in the guts sometimes, and how you react to that, it says a lot about you.
Yeah. So who are your heroes? Who are your guys in comedy? Who are your favorites?
Well, I mean, Codco for sure. Most people wouldn't know who they are, but it's a sketch comedy group out of Newfoundland. I think they're the funniest sketch group ever. I mean, they're right up there with SCTV, Saturday Night Live, Tommy Sexton, Mary Walsh, all those guys, Greg Malone. I mean, Andy Jones, Kathy Jones, amazing sketch comedy. I mean, I would literally grow up and me and my friends would watch that show on a Friday night, and then we'd play dress up. We'd, get our mom's dress or our dad's sing and act out the characters. And we didn't even know what we were doing. I mean, back then it was just for some fun. David Letterman for sure was kind of like my TV dad. I don't know how I found him again, like I said, but because he would come on late at night, like 1:30 at night. I was a kid, man, 12, 13, but somehow I stumbled on this show and I just fell in love with it. I mean, I just loved, he would throw TVs off the building. He would just be irreverent. And I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I just knew I liked it. And Martin Lawrence is a big one for me.
Yeah, Martin was really funny.
Martin came out, man, and just how silly he was. And he had both. Like, his stand-up is amazing. His show was awesome. A Canadian I got to put in there, Mike McDonald. I don't know if you know him, but
Love Mike McDonald.
Right. If you didn't know who he was,
can't be more late.
Dude, he's the best ever. He's the Canadian GOAT for sure. I mean, he was
for sure. Yeah.
Everybody knows Mike because he was on TV all the time. He was one of the only guys. He did every festival. I think he did like 25, 26 just for last festivals in a row, like madness. And I mean, he went through a lot as well. I mean, he went through drug addiction, mental illness, a liver transplant. And I ended up meeting Mike eventually, a couple years before his death. And I mean, he'd been in the hospital for a long time with his issues. And he got out and he had like a whole new hour, but whatever he went through. And it was just incredible.
Yeah, he was amazing.
And he was the nicest guy, man. Like, you know, he was literally the GOAT, but he'd have all kinds of time for you. He'd just stand there, and if, as long as you wanted to talk to him, he'd talk to you. He was amazing. And Patrice O'Neill, I mean, in terms of modern day, Patrice is no longer with us, but Patrice O'Neill, man, I mean, if you don't know who Patrice O'Neill is, just Google it and enjoy yourself. It's amazing.
Okay.
And I think, honestly, I mean, not heroes, but influences. Newfoundland, again, man, like, I was talking with this with my buddies the other day, like, all my friends are really, really funny. Not like a little bit funny, like hilarious, you know? Like even my wife is absolutely hilarious. She's a really funny person. And that can't hurt when you're surrounded by that, you know? Because again, I'm competitive, right? I want to be the funniest. So yeah, keep me on my toes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I talk to my daughter a lot about, like, you know, getting out there and playing against other kids in golf and playing with kids that are better than you.
Yeah, you have to.
Better. Yeah.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you brought up Mike McDonald. Like, there's a name that for a few years in my house, that was big. Like when he had a special on TV, it was like must-see viewing for me and my dad. And it was top-notch laughs. Top-notch laughs. I'll never forget. I'll say it always still to this day. Once you're late, you can't be more late. And that's a Mike McDonald line. And I always say, hey, man, I'm late already. Okay, I'm not going to be any more late. So I'm already late.
His name is TV remote bit. He was just prolific, man, and just so funny.
Funny. Yeah.
I mean, he's,
yeah. Awesome. I you know, thinking about Martin, he was really funny. You know, there's so many funny people, like going back all the way. To me, I think that to be funny, you got to look funny.
It helps. I mean, it definitely helps. I mean, if you're on stage and you're like super handsome and jacked, that's probably not the best thing for comedy. But I mean, it definitely. I mean, it can't hurt to be self-deprecating and have something to go to. But I mean, you don't have.
And Martin's got that Martin's got that funny look. Sometimes he looks funny.
Yeah, he got those big ears, man. The big ears were just naturally funny for sure. And his characters, I mean, were so silly.
Yeah.
You know, all that, like Shanae and all that stuff, Jerome. And,
yeah, Shanae, I forgot about all that.
Yeah, and Jerome. I said Jerome in the house. Amazing.
Okay, so all right, so what are some of the? So we're gonna get into like some of like present times, locations, part of it right now, because I do want to ask you some serious questions. So, what are some of the toughest cities to make people laugh? What's the toughest city to make people laugh?
And I don't know. I assume, you know, Damascus and Kuwait City are probably pretty tough to play, but I haven't played. I don't know, man. Like I said, I've done like 15 years now, over 3,000 shows in 28 countries. So I'm getting pretty adept at adapting, you know, like it's not, I don't look at any places that's really harder to play. Like I think, okay, we brought up Singapore earlier. So here's an example. Like Singapore they take themselves a little too seriously. So when you go into Singapore, you kind of got to massage them a little bit before you go for the juggler, you know, because that's just how they are. Like you said, they got to, you know, they got themselves done up and like, you know, it's like Friday night, guys, take off your tie, man, loosen that tie. It's Friday night.
Yeah.
I mean, China, I performed in China where like, you know, there's certain rules someplace, like China got the 3 T's you can't talk about, right? Like Tibet, Tiananmen Square, and Taiwan, actually. So that's off limits. I mean, even where I am, Thailand, Thailand, you cannot talk about the monarchy whatsoever. We have the toughest monarch laws in the world, and you don't even mention the K word. You don't even do it. If you're in public and you're an expat and you mention that word, you're looking over your shoulder like, oh no.
Yeah.
So there's certain rules. So that's all you really do, right? When I go to a new country or a new place, I'll just like do a little research on it, maybe hit up another comedian from that place and say, hey, what's going on here? What kind of things are good? What kind of things I shouldn't do? But yeah, I haven't been anywhere where I thought was a tough place to play. Just there's rules, and you gotta know the rules to break them.
Okay, so do you find that Asia appreciates comedy more than say North America, or is it about even?
I don't know if they appreciate it more. I think the expats do because it's a little slice of home that they miss. It's like a band. You go out and see a band. You're like, oh man, I miss this.
Yeah.
But I think it's what I like about the Asian scene. It's new, man. It's only like really like 25 years going. I mean, there was a little bit of comedy 25 years ago, but it's only been the past decade where the scenes really hit. Like now you got big scenes in Singapore and Malaysia and India and the Philippines. And so it's exciting because, it's new. And so I love that energy. So I think maybe they're excited for that reason, but the comedy's not really there yet either. Like it is in some places, like it's starting to be there. Because like I said, it takes 10 years, right? So until these youngsters put in their 10 years, they're not really going to be ready. But when they do, I mean, the Asian scene will be the biggest scene in the world, no doubt about it.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk cancel culture and comedy right now, right? Earlier you were talking, you were getting down a line of talking about like I forget what you're saying, but it made me think of the cancel culture question.
Yeah.
So when you're like, how does cancel culture come into your mental state? Is it involved in your writing? Do you adjust according to the room, the city? I mean, and I'm not counting cancel culture when you go to say China and you can't talk to 3 T's, because that's not cancel culture. I'm talking about cancel culture, right? So how does that play? And has anyone tried to bust your balls about it and give you shit about it? Like either
am I allowed to curse on this thing?
Of course.
Fuck cancel culture, man. Listen, I don't think about it because it's not real, man. It's really not real. The problem is people are giving these people, which are a very, very small segment of the population, too much credit, man. It's like, because it's insincere and it's abusive. They don't mean it. Like if they come at me like acting like they're all mad about my joke, they're not mad about my joke. They're just looking for a buzz. They're just looking for a dopamine hit. And then they're on to the next thing. They're not necessarily really bothered by me, And like, to me, like intent matters always. Context matters, And like most comics, almost all comics, I promise you, are not trying to hurt. They're trying to help. And that's what we do, And that's just what we do. And, I mean, at the same time, though, like every joke kind of needs a victim. So that's why there's victims in comedy. But yeah, man, it's just intent matters. And I just think that that shit's going away soon because it's insincere. And the irony of it blows my mind. Like, it's like these people who think like, don't say this and don't say that. Like, you're not like, because it's like, it's free speech. It's one of the greatest rights we have. And you're trying to take away, not even my rights, like your own right. Like you're such a moron. Like you don't even see the irony involved. So, I mean, it hasn't really happened to me yet. I mean, I've had a couple. I'll tell you a really funny story. This was years ago now, like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was performing with Gilbert Gottfried, right? Comedy legend. And I was in my hometown and I was on stage and I said the R word. And, I'm not proud of it. I don't say it anymore. At the time, it just slipped out. It wasn't a bit. I wasn't going, but I just mentioned it. And just as an adjective, And then this couple came up to me after the show and they were like, oh, you're so funny. We had a great time. But however, you did say the R word. So, we didn't really like that because we have a son at home who's autistic, right? And now Gilbert Gottfried standing right next to me. I'm like, well, I didn't call your son the R word. You just did, And like Gilbert Gottfried just burst out laughing in their face. Like it couldn't have been a more perfect person to have. Like I had Gilbert Gottfried as a sidekick to laugh in their face for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
But that's what comedy does, man. I mean, honestly, all we do is provide tension relief. That's what comedy is. We build up the tension and then we let it out. That's comedy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if you're if you're just going at someone for no reason, like someone who doesn't deserve it, I mean, I don't agree with that. Let me tell you two examples actually out of Canada. These are really good examples because we set the precedent on this back home.
Well, yeah, I think we lead the league in cancel culture.
Man, we're the worst. Canada pretends we're so progressive.
I know. The virtue signaling Karens of the world are congregating in Ontario.
Dude, we love pointing at America going, look. It's like, no.
Dude, don't we?
Look
hate it so much. I'm with you, Brian. I'm with you. It drives me.
It's such fake progressiveness. It is total virtual signaling. And okay, so example. So there's this guy, forget his name right now, but you can look up Guy Earl, I think his name was. So he was just a regular comic, not a hilarious guy, but a funny guy. And he was just hosting an open mic in BC, I think it was, in Vancouver. And it was just an open mic. It was at a cafe, and the cafe was paying him $50 to just host this little show. Whatever. A lesbian couple sitting in the front row. They got in some kind of altercation. And again, if you want to know the whole story, Google it, check it out. And again, where he wasn't, as funny as he kind of needed to be, he kind of went at them and said some really rude things. They got mad. They threw a drink in his face because I guess they were close. He ended up breaking, I think, a pair of sunglasses on their tail. Anyway, it got really ugly kind of thing. And so they reported him to the BC Human Rights Commission, right? Now, even though they interrupted his show, I think they were kind of making out in the front row too. We kind of had to address it. But he said some bad things to them. They report him to the Human Rights Commission. Long story short, he loses in court and has to end up paying those girls, I think it was $15,000 or something. And because the cafe paid him $50 that night to host this shitty open mic, they were on the hook too, and they had to pay the girls $7,500. So these two girls, right, who are about as tough as feathers, walked away with $22,500 for the bullshit. And that set a precedent in Canada, in the world. That's never been done before. Now, the other one was Mike Ward, a really funny, established comic out of Quebec. But his act is filthy. Like, if you know who Mike Ward is, you know what Mike Ward does. That's what it is. And he had this horrible joke. I mean, I didn't like it. It wasn't good. But hey, it's a joke. And it was about some boy who had Treacher syndrome, which is some kind of, I think, muscular dystrophy type of thing. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but the kid was messed up. He's in a wheelchair and yada yada. His dream was to be a singer, but the funny thing was, I guess, he couldn't sing. But because he had these issues, he was becoming kind of a media darling. He got to sing for the Pope, and so Mike just, I guess, took this as something he thought was funny. Took the story, started talking about it, but he was pretty vicious. I mean, he went at the kid, So they heard about it, right? They weren't even at the show, the kid nor his mom. They found out about it, sued him, and Mike actually has some money because he makes some money. And that kid walked away with, like, I think Mike ended up spending almost $100,000 defending himself in court, and still had to pay them $30,000 or $40,000. And not just the kid, had to pay the mom for her hurt feelings. I mean,
what? Say that again.
Like, not only did the kid get money from Mike, like Mike had to pay the mother for her hurt feelings as well. Like, they weren't even at the show.
Emotional distress.
Yeah, and she wasn't even at the show. So it's like, you're hearing it secondhand. It's hearsay, which is, again, context matters. Like, for the people at that show, they're the only ones who know if it's funny or not. If you laugh, it's funny. And sometimes even if you don't laugh, it's just not funny. That's the part I don't understand. Like, I understand going, hey, Mike, man, that guy Mike Ward, he's an asshole. Okay, cool. You don't like his joke. It's okay not to like something, but you don't have to go after a man and try to take away his livelihood. Like, just don't like it, turn the channel, don't buy a ticket, walk away.
So does that mean I can sue anyone that talks shit about me if I find out?
If you live in Canada.
It almost seems that way. Yeah. If someone says, yeah, that Brooke Day, he's got a left hand, but he can't go right.
Yeah.
Right? I can take the chips.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I discovered Dr. Peterson. I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Peterson.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson. Yeah.
During the Bill C-16.
Yeah.
Situation that ended up getting passed. So now you can't say anything offbeat. You must refer to trans people by their preferred pronouns. You must. And if you refuse it, you are basically in violation of the Canadian Human Rights Act. And
well, you could be charged again, right? Which listen, no one wants to, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't know who they are. But there's a list, I think it's 72 pronouns. You know what I mean? Like, just give us some time to catch up here. Like, I'm a 46-year-old man. I still don't know what a salad fork is, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Like, let me try to catch up to these 72 pronouns.
Yeah, I'm good with
one. You could be at a Burger King drive-in window about to order, and she has her back turned, and you're like, "Hey, buddy, can I get another spoon?" And she's, "I'm not a buddy, I'm a girl." And then all of a sudden, you know, the court's involved. I mean, that's craziness.
Right. Yeah, I think like I remember that. I remember that's when a big opening inside me got open, and it was like, no, where are we going with all this? And again,
he explains it well too. Jordan Peterson is a very smart dude. He explains it well. And again, intent matters. Like, of course, hate crimes are horrible. And like going after someone, of course, it's horrible. But if it's just a mistake, like, you really got to toughen up. Life is tougher than that.
Yes. So, like, where does this go from here? Like, you know, for example, talking about a guy that I like, of course, I like Bill Burr a lot. Always been one of my favorites. You know, he had his Saturday Night Live moment, a month and a half ago, and he was I think he played a little rough, and I mean, he was getting kudos from a lot of the people that I follow on Twitter and social media, but of course there was the yappy section that really just
be that
terrible. I mean,
that's what those guys do.
Jail, you know. Where are we in this? Because you know, I had a good chat with a buddy of mine last night who's politically very different than me, but we're good bros. We like to go back and forth, and we both feel like that sort of had its climax, and it's sort of like kind of coming down.
I hope so, man. I mean, I think so. I hope so. Like I said, I don't give a shit about it because I don't think it's real. You know, I really don't. I think it's such a small segment of the population, and they're insincere and they're abusive, and I just and it doesn't
not being able to laugh at yourself. I think one of the things,
which is insane, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't understand the irony, and I think you're right. I think especially with everything that's happened this year, right? It's been a crazy year, and I think on the grand scale of things, everyone got a little bit more of a perspective, and they're like, listen, make a joke or don't. Like, we don't got no time for your bullshit. You know, I think it's reached its peak too. At least I hope it does. But again, man, whatever. I mean, I just don't. I would never give people like that any credence, really. You know what I mean? And the worst thing you can do to these people is apologize, because then they got you. Because what are you apologizing for? Like, unless you really did something damaging or hateful, like, I mean, what are you apologizing for? A joke? Like, I will never apologize for a joke. Absolutely not. Never.
You think that you're in the majority with that amongst the people in the comedy circles?
Definitely.
What percentage is with you on that?
Man, I think 90+%, you know, and then there's other people who consider themselves woke, but I think they're just kind of young and they don't really know yet what the world's about.
And they're not
like,
funny.
They think they're woke, but they're not woke. They're actually asleep.
They're not funny. I mean, if you look back, if you look, like, I remember, in preparing for tonight, I wanted to refresh, like, what has comedy meant to me in my life? Where were times where I had to watch comedy? And for me, it started with Eddie Murphy, right? You know, Delirious. I mean, Eddie Murphy takes a run at so many different ethnicities in Delirious, right?
That ice cream bit, dude. That ice cream bit was, that was amazing.
Yeah.
It was legendary.
Right, and he also, when he was with Saturday Night Live, he took runs and took liberties with lots of different ethnicities. So, and that was funny. And I like, always with the Italians, right? Like, my Italian friends, because I grew up in the Italian neighborhood in Sarnia. They loved it.
Yeah, they're used to breaking balls too, right? That's kind of a cultural thing. So they're used to breaking balls, so that's a good thing. And again, like you said earlier, I think you're right. Like, funny is funny. If you're funny, you're funny. You don't got to worry about anything. You'll make it laugh, make people laugh. I think that's the problem sometimes, is some comics kind of take on subjects that they really got no business doing. They're not ready to tackle it. I mean, if you're taking on religion or things like this, pro-rights pro-life stuff like that, I mean, you better be really funny. I mean, that's not for rookies. But again, if you don't like something, move on. That's the part I don't understand.
Yeah, keep it moving. Yeah.
I mean, dude, I had a friend of mine who made fun of mannequins. All right, he just made fun of mannequins. There was these mannequins in a window that were like just skinny, kind of stick figure kind of things, and some of the public got really bothered by the body dysmorphia. They said it was causing and this and that. Anyway, he just made some stupid jokes about it, and people really went at him like hard and like tried to get his shows canceled. Again, it's like you're trying to cancel this man's livelihood over some dumb jokes about a mannequin. Like, get a grip, you know what I mean? Or people will be online, like on their phones or whatever. Just, I think people like to get angry now, especially this year, because there's a lot of stress going on, because it's a release and they feel powerful, but it's not real. Their power is not real a lot of times. You know, they're on their phone going pissed off about everything. I'm like, why don't you be pissed off that your phone was made by a 6-year-old? Get pissed off about that.
Yeah.
You know, something that's real.
Yeah. Also too, I think people like to get pissed off to show other people that they're pissed off, so that other people can go, yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think honestly, a lot of people that do this, from what I've seen, my limited things I've seen, is just, they're just not happy with themselves, dude. And they're just projecting. It's just that simple.
Yep.
And like, you know, I just stay away from it because it's poison. It's poison. It's abusive. And
So
then
what's
what the funny thing is, they try to make it look like we're the bullies. They're the actual bullies.
Yeah.
Again, the irony, they don't understand. They're the bullies. You know, just because
So
you might have a nice little dress on and a ponytail don't mean you can't be a bully.
So as we wrap things up here, I want to know what the plan is for you, like post-COVID. What's the plan? You got anything?
Plan, man, right now, you know, my special, Big in Asia, just got dropped by Comedy Dynamics. So I'm up with the big boys now. They're produced Kevin Hart, Jim Gaffigan, all these guys. So that's really exciting. Again, you can go on comedydynamics.com and get that, listen to it or watch it. So I'm really going to be pushing that over the next couple of months. I'm going to have a web series coming out called Buddy in Bangkok, which is going to be me going around Bangkok, just getting into things. Kind of think like Anthony Bourdain, but a comedy angle and just the funniness of this city, because you know how it is, man. The stereotypes, people just talk about whether it's the prostitution or the lady boys or stuff like that. And like, Bangkok is so much more than that.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the most multicultural cities in the world. It's spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
So Buddy in Bangkok is coming. I'm going to start a podcast, half an hour later podcast, and just keep going, man. So hopefully start touring again. Like I do. I want to get to Taipei. That's on the list. A Korean tour. I'm touring the Middle East. Every year now we do Best Kind Comedy Tour. I'm the headliner of that. We've been doing it for 3 years, over 30 cities now. You know, we range anywhere from 300 people up to 2,000. We're even starting to play small arenas now. I mean, it's crazy. Just keep going, man. Keep the momentum going. That's kind of been the hard thing this year, is really took a smack in terms of momentum. But I learned a lot about the business. I learned about creating characters. My writing got better. Again, like we were saying, it's like toughen up and find another way.
Yeah, I was in the lab. I was in the lab huge this year. I was in the lab
Right.
huge. I've got big things happening for myself, and you know, the great thing is I think that most of my friends did the same. I've been lucky.
Man,
I got a
you're
lot of good
surrounding
friends.
yourself with good people. And honestly, I think, if I'm being totally honest with myself, I appreciated a little bit of the break, you know, because I am on the road a lot. So it's been nice to be with my wife and stuff and not have to travel so much. That's been nice. But, you know, at the end of the day, that's where I make my bread. So I got to get back on the road and start doing it. So I think by the spring, man, we're going to have this in the rearview mirror and we can get back to somewhat normal.
You talked about producing a man on the street. Are you putting some production value in that? Looking to sell that off to?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely talking to some people right now. I'm going to at least start it because I've had it. I've been procrastinated with too long now. So I'm just going to start it and go from there. But yeah, I'm talking to some people, and because of the special now, you know, they have some interest in my newer ideas. You know, I have a documentary idea too about a documentary idea about Asia that I don't want to give away too much right now. But yeah, I'm being listened to by the industry and stuff. And but again, it's tricky in terms of like getting grants and getting money for comedy. But I'm looking into that because obviously this stuff costs money. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for basically some tech help on that and money. I mean, I got the ideas. I got ideas for days, but I need a sidekick for sure.
Yeah, you need people around you. You just made me remember, you were talking about if comedy was classified as an art, then you'd have lots of money. I think too, if comedy was more classified as an art, I think there'd be a lot more free reign as far as like less cancel culture involved in it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because then you could call it art. Yeah.
No, because you know, you can basically like, you know, the hip hop music that we grew up with, and I'm not trying to be the old guy in the room, but nowadays it's like I'm listening to pornography.
Yeah, no, I don't like that stuff. I'm still Gangstar all day. Tribe Called Quest, old school. I listen to a little bit of new stuff. I'm really into J. Cole right now, but I like it kind of chill, man. Yeah, I don't like that stuff either. It's crazy. It's crazy because I mean, I don't have kids, but I have 2 nephews now, and you know, I have several nephews and on my wife's side too, and a niece. And yeah, man, I mean, what they can just see by pushing a button right now is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I you know, I got a daughter who's 11, and I've let her grow up exposed. I believe in that. I'm just, when Cardi B's Wet Ass Pussy came out, I was like, please don't come home one day and have that jamming in my daughter's room.
Right?
Just please. I don't want to come into the house with that bumping from her in her room.
But isn't that crazy that's just mainstream now? I mean, you're talking about the president of the United States talking about grab her by the pussy. There's a song called Wet Ass Pussy, and everyone's like, oh yeah, like that shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't be a thing, man. But hey, it is. And again, but yet they're worried about my shitty jokes. It's like, worry about some things that matter.
Like, oh man, I thank God it's not number one no more, and it's not on the front of people's minds, because that's the one thing that I got to be honest, it's catchy as hell. And probably if you and I were in college, we'd be getting crunk up to it. If that record
That's true. That's true. I mean, look a mumble rap out of Chicago, right? That shit's crazy.
Yeah, if that record came on at the Capri or Smooth Herman's, me, you, Brady, Pesci, we'd be on the dance floor getting it on, right? For sure.
And you know what? Me and my wife were talking about this the other day, and I think it's interesting. I think in terms of history, like, we were kind of in an amazing pocket, the 80s, 90s, because, by that time, people were getting their rights and stuff, like, like whether it was minorities or women and stuff were starting to, be on the come up and stuff, and technology hadn't really been, killing us yet. So we were in this pocket where there was still kind of innocence, and it was kind of beautiful. And like, I just love that I grew up in that time. Honestly, I don't wish I was young at all.
I agree. Said it last night with my buddy that we were chatting with. Being a kid of the 70s and growing up before, my family, we didn't have AC. I mean, Southwestern Ontario in the summertime, you need an AC. So we didn't have AC. Rotary dial phones, right? No microwave, no movies, like no VHS or beta. I think like Atari Vision was out, but like barely.
Yeah, go outside and make a slingshot.
Yeah, there's so much stuff we didn't have. And not because we were poor, because it wasn't there. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, pow, it's all here.
Yeah. And the pace of it is terrifying, but
And to be able to straddle both of those worlds, you're right. It was a special moment in time. I do.
I'm hoping that's where my nephews and my niece are going to help me. They're going to help me stay cool, because it's starting to pass me by.
Having a daughter.
Yeah, we're going to need them, because it's going at a fast pace.
Yeah. So the final question I have is, and it's a funny one because I want to get your perspective. I know you're going to bust my balls, but your fondest memories of watching me play in college from the bench.
Watching you play college? Well, listen, I remember
waving towels.
I remember Stevie not passing you the ball. I remember you being a liability. I remember you being a liability on defense, and at least when I started, you got the ball. And I remember us being, and I remember us arguably being the most talented team in the country, and Peterson on the way being knuckleheads. And, again, right? That used to bother me. For was over now. Yeah.
It was an exceptional grouping of talent that year.
We had a team, man.
Exceptional.
We had a team.
It was some. I remember the end of that year. The runs that we had in the spring were tremendous.
Yeah, man.
Tremendous basketball being played.
We just couldn't get together, man. We were like a traveling circus. It was a traveling circus of foolish individuals.
That stuff takes time, and that was only 1 year, right? And it was headed in the right direction, but the architect of that team was gone.
Yeah, true. And the beautiful thing about it, though, is like Matt Skin now, who was a freshman on the team. When we were there, I mean, he's the coach now, and I mean, and Fabe, right, who was like the manager, our manager when we were there. He's the coach of the women's team. He's crushing it. He's the coach of the national team, and those guys have been setting records, have been nationally ranked every year. So like, what came out of that group was some basketball genius that's keeping them steady today. So I mean, they're to be reckoned with now, man.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, and that offseason, 2 of the top 7 players, they just decided to go be pimps and drug dealers in Toronto.
Right.
That was our squad. Our squad was fantastic that way. the color, the commentary, the trash talk, the hangouts.
Yeah.
Like it was.
We
It was
needed a couple
really,
more betas. We needed a couple more betas to balance it out.
oh my God! It was the biggest collection of like, I'm the man guys in the room.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, getting a chance to play with Dave was, I mean, I came up with Dave in Ontario. When I found out Dave was coming to Cape Breton in my second year, I was like,
Incredible talent.
we're gonna
Shout out to Dib. Dave
yeah,
Phillips.
shout out to
Man,
Dip.
he was a
Dip
beast.
was legit. Dip was legit.
Was legit. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. He was legit, like top high level D1 recruit.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Like we had this Ontario thing called Hoop Stars, and we played the All-Star game, and I got matched up with Dave. Dave and I were on the same team, and there was a guy that went to Canisius. He was a really good ball players from London. Him and we had a lot of battles in Sarnia and London. Man, Dave really brought it out of his face. I remember seeing Dave.
Man.
Dave's on a.
He had handles. He was big, strong, so strong. I mean, I know Bob Huggins, right from Cincinnati. I mean, he gave him a recruiting visit in Toronto. I mean, they were looking at him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dave was allergic to books. He was allergic to books back then. But he's got his shit together since. I don't know if you know that, man. I think he has like 2 degrees now or something like Dave's crushing it, man. It's so great to see.
I always liked Dave a lot, man. I really did.
Too, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, when I found out he was coming to Cape Breton, I was like, yeah.
Well, that's what happened, right? He met a good Cape Breton girl, Natasha. She's taking care of him and got his shit together.
Yeah. And he's a team guy too. Like, like a lot of like good players and stuff, they're kind of like, Dave's not. Dave was a team guy. He wanted everyone to have their shine and play really well. And if you played really well, he was really supportive of you.
Yeah, man. And you're talking about me being funny. Like, I mean, I love cracking jokes, and that guy's laugh. I mean, Dave loved to laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think me and Dave ate about 400 Junior Whoppers during that time, and just sat in the team room, just laughing our whole off, man, for a long time.
Hey, Dave finished, yeah? Dave finished.
No, I don't think at the time he did. I don't really remember, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But since then, I know he went back to school and like really got his shit together, man. And it was awesome to see, because to go back to school when you're older, to me, that is so difficult, and it says a lot about you. But again, discipline, right? Competitiveness. I mean, he had it all. So but ever since then, he's definitely like I think he might be a legit teacher now. I'm not sure what he's doing, but I know it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I need to talk to him.
We could reminisce about hoops for a long time. What do you think of the NBA these days?
Man, I mean, I watch it. I mean, the talent blows my mind. I mean, it's just talent blows my mind. I mean, someone like a Kevin Durant, 7-footer, dropping 35-foot bombs on the regular. But it's not the same. I mean, this super team stuff is fun to watch, but it's it's too much money, man. I think money's kind of tainted sports, and
I agree.
I mean, what motivates these guys to get better when they're sitting in a $15 million house and you got 500 naked ladies banging on your door? I mean, it's just too much. But I love watching the talent. I mean, I'm a point guard, and I love watching these guards, just do their thing. But I just watch it now for the talent. I'm still a Pistons fan, kind of, but honestly, I just watch players. I love LeBron. I don't like the LeBron haters. I love everything about him, and I hope he gets his 5th ring. I'm all about the Lakers.
I'm off LeBron right now.
But he's
LeBron's
amazing.
taking the bag from China, and I was a LeBron guy early, and I'm still team LeBron from the standpoint where I got a lot of respect for him. But I'd like to see LeBron take a little bit more of a stand against China.
Yeah, but I mean, he knows he's not trying to mess with that money. He's trying to keep his money right now. But when he's
I think that he would transcend that relationship. I don't think he understands the power he actually has.
I think he might, man, because I think that's what he might end up using China, kind of like what Marbury did. Because LeBron went into China. I mean, LeBron could go into China and make $100 million off merch. So I mean, he's got his eyes on the prize.
Fair enough.
He's incredible. But it's great to see him, man. This was fun.
Yep. Well, thanks so much, Brian. Do you want to plug some of your social media while we're at it?
Yeah, well, the big thing is, man, Big in Asia, my new special. I'm so excited about it. To people in Taiwan and elsewhere, this is a special, like almost an hour long of all kind of Asian material, my experiences in Asia. And everything I am is Brian Aylward Comedy. So BrianAylwardComedy.com is my website, Brian Aylward Comedy on Instagram. And I got my fan page on Facebook is Brian Aylward Comedy. So everything Brian Aylward Comedy, Big in Asia. Check it out.
I'll make sure I drop those links in the description.
Yeah, please do, brother.
For this. And thanks for spending your time. And as soon as COVID-19 clears, Now that there's a comedy club up in Taipei, make the trip. I'll come up there and hang out with you, okay?
For sure, man. That'd be awesome.
All right, have a Merry Christmas, bro.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.